Whoa, that was bright. Sorry. Hi everyone. This is a Q&A. One of the commenters in one of my other videos had like a bunch of different, like, not questions necessarily, like comments, and most of them were things that I wanted to respond to, and it's just way easier just to make another video. So I did. Right. I'm going to show you what it was. So here we go. Right. So the comments are right. Novice here. Please help me to understand the marine list. That is in reference to the. I'll link in the description for this video the video that he was commenting to. I sort of get what's wrong with it, but not how to improve it. Yeah. Sometimes, and I'm sorry about if I don't like, if I can't do this. It's not always that I can actually give advice where you could improve something, and sometimes it's just my brain that's not like don't come up with the ideas. I'll when I do the list reviews, it's not something that I plan out ahead, right? So I don't like plan out exactly what I want to say at all. I don't even look at the lists in ahead. I just open the lists and go through them, my initial reaction. So I may not have had enough of how to improve, but there are some lists that I don't think you can improve, that you should just cut. I also understand the approach of making it a numbers game instead of a historically accurate one. That being said, here we go. Right. Yeah, for competitive gaming, which is what this channel is all about, this is a numbers game. This is a game of where we don't care about that much about history. Although we're not, like, I'm not completely against history, but if you're going to have a veteran unit costs points. Yes, they do. That is exactly right. They cost points. So what you're buying for those points, that is the calculation. If you're getting the value for those points, and what value do you get for those points, and can you get that value, that same value, cheaper if you buy something else? Now, veteran units, a lot of top players use a lot of veteran units, but not like that list did at all. So he writes here, you could take a couple of troops from each squad, the SMGs, and give them rifles, BARs, and make another squad, but that's only one more order dice when you indicate several more are needed. Yes. So there are two things playing in here. There's one thing where you, like, how do you build each squad and what value do you get from it? And for many squads, and that Marine squad is one of them, what you're getting is you're buying yourself skirmisher units. Those skirmisher units are equally deadly as regular as they are as veteran. They're a little bit more survivable as veteran, but they're just as deadly as regulars. And if you're mixing in different weapon types, like SMGs into Americans that have BARs, then there's something wrong with your ranges as well. So several different things going on here. Now, why is one more order dice needed? Well, the way you fix such a list there is you cut down. You figure out where you can cut stuff and say, this is wrong, let it go. And then you save up a bunch of points, and then you buy extra order dice for those points. Why are order dice more important? Well, because if you're very low on order dice, then it doesn't matter whether you're veteran and more survivable, because the enemy, if the enemy has two smaller units and you have one, and these may cost the same, like you have one big veteran unit, they have two small regular units, right? Who will win? The one veteran unit or the two small regulars? The two small regulars, because they will deliver one pin to your veteran unit each. So every single turn he has double the pins that you do, and pins is what wins games, especially for skirmish units. So more order dice are better than fewer order dice, and that is true up to a certain tipping point, and this is very dependent on local metas and on the national meta of where you're playing. So, for instance, in America, a lot of the players there will bring around 13 order dice in 1,000 points list. If you go below that, you're going to struggle. Not only are you going to struggle, you're going to get pinned more than the enemy is, but you're also less likely to get your order dice out the bag in order to act. So the enemy is more likely to get to act when they want to than you are. So going below your local meta, and by the way, for Europe, like the meta, the average on 1,000 point list would be 14, 15 order dice. So it's different from where you're, like, depending on where you're at, that changes up a bit. But for all of that, it's all true that if you go below, you're going to struggle, you're going to get pinned more than the enemy is, and you're going to struggle to get to activate when you want to go. So more order dice is always a little bit better, to the point where your units become so ineffective that they just blow over. They can't actually stand up in a fight. And there is a tipping point, because if you go like above 20, 23 at 1,000 points, then your units become so small, so ineffective, so cheap that the enemy will simply start charging you out or killing a unit every single turn. But there's a long way to that point. There's a long way up to that point where your units become so ineffective. So, he writes, in my limited experience, the smaller the squad, the fewer the shots, and the more easily it's eliminated. Yes, but it's not a matter of fewer shots. Every single one shot can deliver a pin, and it's the pins that win this game. So the ideal, like the common wisdom of most competitive lists, and go and watch my videos on like the top WTC or the nationals tournaments around the world, you'll see people bring regular or veteran units for skirmishing capabilities. You'll see them bring them around 6 to 8 man units. That is where the Goldilocks zone is, for when you have enough shots that you're fairly certain you're going to hit something, pin it, maybe give a casualty, but nothing more than that. If you want a squad that will absolutely decimate your opponent, you're going to have to sink so many points into it that it becomes not usable, and you will get pinned. And those pins will mean that the points in your squad is wasted because you can't activate. Even if you do activate, you're going to be pinned, and you're going to miss your shots. So large veteran squads are not actually that good. Veteran squads, though, can be useful in certain contexts with certain armaments. If you're just running large squads of veterans with rifles, just to have them skirmish, then I would say 6 or 7 men is the absolute maximum you need to take. If you're going to run your veterans in Bren carriers, then you need to fit to the size of the Bren carrier, right? If you're going to run them as assault troops with Tough Fighter and any of the other, like, go and watch my videos on assaulters, then 7 to 8 to maybe 9 men, maybe 9, but that's a lot of, I think it's too much. I think 7 to 8 is perfect. That means you have enough dice when you assault to be fairly sure that you can kill most of the enemy units, but you're not paying so many points that it's a point, what we term a point sink, where you're sinking points into something that's not that effective. So large units, like at the recent Danish Nationals, we had one player try a 18-man veteran fanatic tough fighter Italian unit, and he said it worked out horribly because he got pinned every single game. The enemy would just dedicate 2 units to him, pin him down. He didn't get to act. I think he got to charge once or twice during 6 games of a tournament. Once or twice for an 18-man unit that cost in excess of 200 points. That's not worth it. That is not worth it. So, no, it does not really work out the way you say here. The smaller the squad, the fewer the shots, the more easily eliminated. Yeah, but units are not typically not very easily eliminated in bolt action unless we're talking flamethrowers, where a flamethrower removes the unit, or if we're talking assaults. In those 2 circumstances, units go away. Otherwise, typically you won't lose units to shots, so your unit will stay. Right, next one. It seems to me, yes, I am a novice, that large infantry squads can inflict more damage and survive while doing so. It's more vulnerable. No, large squads don't inflict more damage. And veterans don't inflict more damage than regulars. It's the same amount of damage, both in close combat and in shooting. It's the same amount of damage. You're paying more points for survivability. But that survivability is typically not needed. So if you're just paying extra bodies for something that you're not going to need, then you're wasting points. That is the point that I'm making. Right. More valuable than having 1 or 2 more order dice that I'd get by having a slightly larger army of inexperienced rookies with pointy sticks that will take their order dice with them when they would depart for Valhalla. I think he is referring here to the bamboo sticks, the bamboo inexperienced guys, which, by the way, are great. And yes, they die all the time. But what happens with the bamboo guys is that they are fanatic. So they will absolutely hurt your opponent once they get to close combat, which is where you want them to go. Getting there is the trick. So yes, inexperienced units. And I don't use inexperienced units myself. Let me just say this. If I run, like my Brits, I run certain things inexperienced, certain things regular, certain things veteran, and most of my infantry is veteran. Most of my vehicles are regular. Most of my teams are inexperienced. So, and that's just, it's something that you'll learn as you progress in the game, as you have more experience, what you think works. But I'll just say this. Most competitive players agree with me on this, and we can see that just by looking at their lists. So experience of highly competitive players is not what you're describing here. Do they go to Valhalla? Well, I don't think they do. Only heroes go to Valhalla. Odin only picks out the greatest of warriors, and that is not the inexperienced dudes. So, a little religious aside there. Also, it seems counterintuitive to have an inexperienced officer over veteran troops, though I don't know how it relates in the game. Yes, it is counterintuitive. It's massively counterintuitive. But you have to look at this as a game where you're paying points for capabilities. That lieutenant has the same capabilities as other lieutenants, more expensive, like a veteran. A veteran second lieutenant has exactly the same morale effect on your troops. He's still just one guy, and he'll die just as easily when he's charged or whatever. So, in the game, what most competitive players is trying to do is they're trying to cut down on costs, and especially lieutenants are not worth it. They don't do anything in the game that's worth paying extra points for. Go and look at the lieutenants for the WTC or for roll call, the recent English nationals. You won't see many regular lieutenants, and those are only taken for nations when you can't buy inexperienced lieutenants. Everyone takes inexperienced lieutenants because they're not worth paying extra points for. Next. If his job is to survive and do officer stuff, wouldn't veteran help? Yes, it would. But what you do with your lieutenant is you make sure that he doesn't get shot at. because there's no reason to take him veteran. That is not massively more likely to survive. If he's just one guy, one veteran dies 1/3 of the time for just a rifle shot. So that veteran second lieutenant will die almost as easily, and he's definitely not worth the points. So because you're paying a lot of extra points for that. I mean, going from inexperienced to regular, you pay 35 for an inexperienced, 60 for a regular, almost doubling the points. He's not double as likely to survive, not even close. So no, he's definitely not worth it as veteran. Next one. What would you do with the points you save? Buy another small squad, and you're still concretely like what I would save a lot of points. I would cut down on many different places, save a lot of points, and then buy more capabilities, buy more infantry, buy more Daka in my vehicle section, buy more units. Especially, I can't remember that Marine squad that we're talking about here, but that was low on order dice. Very, very low. Critically low. Now, if you get a regular bazooka and sniper teams, where you have the points, is even less a veteran list, and you've only squeezed it out more, like 1 or 2 more order dice. And I've indicated that he should have 10 more, almost 10 more. Yes, he should. And yes, but that means you have to squeeze every fucking where that you go. You have to squeeze so many places. This is min-maxing. You're maximizing your capabilities in your list while minimizing the cost. If you don't care about the cost, then you're not getting all the tools that you need. You're not getting enough order dice, you're not getting enough tools. Because you're using your units as point sinks. Not going to be effective, not going to work. Also, it seems to me that taking a first lieutenant is a good move, because the one tactic that I seem to have good luck with is giving snap to orders for 2 large squads and having them all fire or advance at a single opposing unit. A dose of shock and awe over and over. Okay. Good for you. I have never seen that work in competitive games. Not once. Not ever. And not even casual games have I seen this be actually game winning at any point. A first lieutenant is extremely expensive. You're sinking so many points into this, where you could go out and save the points and get yourself a Darker Steward or something else that actually erases units. That first lieutenant is not going to erase units. Your 2 units that are then large units, like large chunky units with a lot of extra shots, SMGs, what have you, will advance or go against one single enemy unit. What does that enemy unit do? If it's clever, it goes down in cover, and you've just wasted 3 of your units shooting. Then the opponent has, because you've shot 3 very expensive units at the opponent, he'll have 4 or 5 units to start shooting at you, and you've just advanced. You can't go down anymore. Now you're being shot to pieces. So this tactic, although it seems very alluring to some players, especially rookie players, you will quickly find out over time it does not work. It will not win you games. I have never seen this actually work. And I've seen one player do a snap 2 with 8 units, where you had a captain and first lieutenants and stuff, and he just snapped to his lieutenants, so who would snap to other units. 8 units he was moving at the same time. It did not win him the game. It did not kill any units of the enemy's force. Not a single one. It doesn't work. So, not trying to sound argumentative. You're not. You're new. I'm hoping that I'm not like running over your ideas here and just dismissing them. I'm trying to argue for why I think that what I do. So perfectly fine. We're good. Am I advocating for inexperienced use to the exclusion of veterans? At no point at all. But I think you need to be very clever about what you make veteran, what you spend your points on. So, if you're buying veteran German SS, giving them assault rifles and buying Fanatic on top of that. That unit is very, very good, but it is also extremely expensive. I can get a Gurkha for less than that, much less. And that Gurkha is way more deadly than your Waffen SS dude. And because I get him my Gurkha for less, I can take more. So that's the calculation basically. So does it mean that that I don't, I think, play veterans but go for order dice instead? No. But I do know people who don't at all. I mean, some of the best players in the world, Manuel, for instance, the German national team captain, he will, most of the time, he'll just take inexperienced. I've even seen him bring inexperienced Darker Stewards, which is that seems dumb because you're firing at -1. But I've seen him do it to the World Championships. He didn't win though, but so some people will do that because it's so much cheaper. They'll cut down on everything because it's so much cheaper. You take a lot of inexperienced bodies. That's not how I play. Go and watch my lists when I present my own armies. My partisans, I have some units that are inexperienced, most are regular or veteran. My Brits, I have some few units that are inexperienced, my medium mortars, for instance, because it doesn't hurt the medium mortar to be inexperienced. I just have to put it out there. Once I've found somewhere safe for it to be, it'll go out and start shooting. But there's a lot of units that I take regular. My vehicles, my Darker Stewards. There's some units that I would only ever take veteran. Like I play veteran assaulters. That's where I think the good stuff is. I wouldn't pay points just to have an infantry unit veteran, just so it would survive. If I'm buying veterans, it's because they need to go up very close to the enemy or into close combat. So that's what I use my veterans for. They are more survivable, but they are not superheroes. And they are definitely not worth the points if you're buying them for something that can't go into close combat, can't go up and stand up in a fight like 6 inches from an enemy unit. So, yeah. So that was my answers to the questions here. Thank you so much for all your comments here, and I hope that this was useful. If other people have questions, write them in the comments. I love reading them. I read most of the comments from my videos. Cheers.